I record. Okay. And then let me do one more thing, and then I'm gonna see if there's a way to. Oh wait, Paige is
Hey,
video too. Okay, well now we have four people on the screen, so I'm like, that's cute. I actually
hey
like
Paige, hey Julie.
that.
Hello.
Okay, well,
Happy
we'll go.
Tuesday. What
Yeah,
day
it
is
is Tuesday.
it?
What day is it? Oh, that's so hard. Oh my gosh. I love it. Okay, so we will go ahead and get started. So thank y'all all for chiming in today for the first ever collab call. My first guest is Dr. Leah Square, and I'm super excited about having you here today, Leah, because I just feel like you are like at the pinnacle of like when I really like started focusing on collaboration and connection to just really kind of build my business. And you were one of the first people to come to mind because I was like, I really felt like we had that connection. Like when we first met each other, I was like, oh my God, this is my girl. And so I just thought that you would be the perfect person to just kind of come on here and casually talk about, how you've utilized collaboration to build your business. And collaboration in lots of different senses, not just like content collaboration, but things like service swaps and model calls, things that a lot of people are like, yeah, I know I need to do that, but like, one, I don't know how to decide what's worth it. Like, how do I know where to go? How do I know how to approach these people? What worked, what didn't work? And obviously every business is gonna have a little something different when they think about like pushing forward in the collaboration space. But I really just want to hear like from the beauty perspective, like just give it to me.
Well, we're jumping right in there. I love that. But I think I know everyone on the call, but just in case, I don't know if we're going to be playing this back later. I am Dr. Leah Square, as Angela mentioned. Such a warm welcome, and I'm in great company today. So I am the owner of Faces by Leah Microblading and Makeup, as well as Aura Salon and Spa Suites, and I'm coming to you live from the building today. And this is just such an exciting topic because I have done an incredible amount of collaborating in my business. And in some instances, I've reached out to collaborate. In some instances, another business owner or another organization has reached out to me. And so it's been kind of a back and forth effort. And I will say I have changed the way that I collaborate. When I first started my business in 2021, it was a yes to everything. It did not
Yes,
matter what it
yes.
was. Oh, you want this auction item? Yes. Oh, you want me to pay $2,000 for this ad? Absolutely. Don't know where the money is going to come from, but we're doing this. Like it was yes, 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 yes.
Yep.
And of course, I was taking notes, right, to see
Mhm.
where was the best ROI, what type of visibility was I getting from, my partnership.
Mhm.
Was this a relationship that I wanted to continue? So as I moved on throughout the years of my business, I could say with a lot more certainty
Mhm.
whether the collaboration worked, whether we should continue the relationship. Maybe it should be tweaked. Maybe it's
Mhm.
not giving something away, but it's I can do something else, to
Yeah.
support. So you can certainly refine the offer as
Yeah.
it works for you, but the biggest thing that I've always asked myself is, do I even have the capacity
Right.
to partner? And sometimes that might mean financially, right? During certain
Mhm.
seasons of my business, things have been kind of tight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then over the summer, I don't have as much business as say, right now during the spring where there's lots of weddings. We just had Mardi Gras, prom is
Mhm.
coming up. I'm a little bit more flexible with what I can give. So,
Right.
don't be afraid to say no if you just really don't have the capacity, whether it's financial, whether it's emotional, mental. You could be going through something in your life and you just can't say yes right now. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, oh, go ahead, Angela. I'm
No,
just running on, but
I
I
was
could go
just
on
gonna,
forever.
yeah, no. This really is meant to be like an over lunch kind of conversation. You see me munching. You may have already eaten lunch and that's fine, or maybe you're skipping lunch and having coffee because I also did that tonight. And it's only Tuesday. But what I like to hear you say and to like kind of reiterate for people to hear is that it was a process to get to where you're able to strategically like know where to go. And I think that's a very honest part of this whole process is like what works for you and what works for me may not be the same things. And so, really, like taking the opportunity to say yes, but also knowing that, like, you need to just because you're saying yes doesn't mean that there's a payoff. And sometimes we don't even expect a payoff. We just do it because the payoff is like in our heart, and that's okay too. But there's a time and a place for those things, and that kind of rolls into capacity. Where like sometimes I don't have the capacity to do things just out of the goodness of my heart. Sometimes I need to be a little more strategic, and so really kind of like if you have a vision of utilizing collaboration and kind of like partnering with people in the community or different businesses or whatever, like you have to be willing to say yes, but you also have to be willing to go home and go, is that something that's worth my time again? Or other resources, whether it's money or whatever. And a lot of the times it's going to be no. Like that's how we learn
Yes.
that these things are like, oh, I don't need to go in that direction. So I just really liked that you kind of like brought that up again because in my head that's something that I did too. Like I stepped into a lot of rooms and I had no idea why I was even there to be honest. But I was
Mm.
just like, I just know I need to get into rooms so that people like recognize my face and go, oh wait, like who is that person? She keeps popping up here and there. And so that kind of like that strikes like that curiosity bug. And I shared the other day on my stories about how like if I could only give one tip to somebody, like going just out and collaborating, it's really strike that curiosity. Like people love to be curious. And so one something that you said, like when we first started like going to events and stuff together, you said something that really stuck with me. And I'm like, oh, that kind of like touches that curiosity bug. Is you said like even if I have nothing to say, I will find something to say and I'll stand up and I'll introduce myself and I'll say it. Like it literally can just be like, oh, hi, I'm Dr. Leah Square, Faces by Leah. I do permanent makeup and blah, blah, blah. And also, I really like your presentation. Like it can be so simple. And when you said that to me, I was like, oh my God, that's genius because it's not just going into the room, but it's really like establishing, like, hey, everybody, I'm here, and it
Mhm.
almost like sends up a little sign without having to like go and hand out your business cards. It's almost like it's the opposite effect. Like people start coming to you and go, hey, do you have a business card? So I
Absolutely.
really
Yes.
like that. That stuck with me.
Yeah, absolutely. It leaves the door open for, people to just, they have that little bit of intrigue and you've already
Mhm.
kind of invited them in by introducing yourself out loud to
Mhm.
the room. And they're like, yeah, I do need my makeup done for such and such.
Yeah.
Let me get her
And
card,
some people don't even realize, some people don't even realize they have a need. Like some people are
Mhm.
like, wait a second, hold on, maybe, you know what, maybe I do want to go get a makeup class done. You know, like a lot of people don't feel like that's accessible. Like I think, especially like in the service industry, particularly like you're what would be considered like a luxury product, just like photography in a lot of
Yeah.
cases is a luxury product. And so just kind of like announcing yourself and like, hey, I am a real life person and I'm right here and like this is attainable to you. Just kind of like sets the tone. And I just really appreciated that. And ever since like then, when I go to events and stuff, I'm like, all right, Leah, when you gonna stand up, girl? I love
Hold me accountable. Absolutely.
it. That's right. Tell me about
Definitely.
so we talked a little bit about like choosing, I guess, determining like where to go and things like that. But if somebody isn't to the point, let's say that their resources are um, not as abundant, like whether it's financial or time or whatever, where would you say other people could kind of like knock on the door to collaborate with other people? I know for me, like social media played a really big part in kind of connecting offline, online. Like we're online, but it's like not at an event, so it's not face to face, but it's still more at like a personal level. So, do you have any other recommendations or like ideas of where people could kind of just knock on the doors without that buy-in of like buying a ticket or Anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are multiple ways to approach it, right? But I think that what gets your foot in the door a little bit faster, if you do have limited resources, is if you already have a relationship with the person that you are reaching out to. I've had
Mm.
people that have DM'd me randomly asking for a donation, which is fine. I know that we get in touch with each other that way if we don't have another um, contact. But I've gone, who is this?
Yeah,
What's the organization again? And I start researching and going down a rabbit hole, and then I get
right.
distracted and I never go back to it because I don't
Yeah,
have a relationship with that person already. So
right.
before you even make the ask, see if, maybe there's a way that you can get into the same room with that person. Maybe start to just like and comment on their content, just so there's some visibility there and they know, hey, they're engaging with me. There's
Yeah,
something there, that could be
yeah,
developing. Invite them out to coffee, invite them out to
yeah,
lunch. It's okay to ask, but just make sure that you're doing it in a way that seems genuine, in a way where it doesn't seem like you're just taking, right? Because
yeah,
when you
yeah.
collab, you want there to be a mutual benefit. I want
Right,
this to have some sort of value for me as you want it to
right.
have for you. So, mutual benefit, just
Especially,
go ahead.
yeah, especially because a lot of those collaborations, especially if we're talking about like content collaborations or like giveaways or whatever, a lot of those we want them to grow into long-term partnerships. If we're
Mhm.
just giving out like short-term things, um, then that's going to be reflective of like everything that comes out of it. For instance, if we're doing like a giveaway on social media together and we don't have any relationship, like people are going to know that. People are
Mhm.
going to be like,
Absolutely.
Leah Square's followers are going to be like, wait, I've never heard of this before. Like, where did they come from?
Right, right.
And sometimes, depending on where you are in that position, that could be a good thing for you, right? Like that kind of touches that curiosity bug. Well, who is this person? Maybe I need to know them too. That's happened
Yeah,
to me numerous
absolutely.
times where I'm like, hold on, I keep seeing this person's name like pop up here and there. Who are they? Maybe I want to know them too. And you said something really good, like making sure that you're not always taking. So, one of the easiest ways to fill up a bucket of someone else is to get on their social media and like and share and comment, and not in like a creepy way. Like, we're not trying
Right.
to get 100 notifications from somebody in 2 days. But over a period of time, it really is kind of like a long-term investment. If you want this person to invest in you, like you have to be willing to make that investment. And sometimes we can kind of awaken that curiosity cat online just so they go, who is this person? And I also liked how you said how you're like, just invite them to coffee. That is like
Mhm.
the most, you know how many coffees I bought?
Yeah, I
You
know.
know
And
how
that's
many
like a
coffees I
$5 date. I mean,
bought?
I think we can all find $5 in our budget,
Yes,
but it's personal. It makes such a difference, when you don't have that relationship already, getting that FaceTime, in an environment that feels safe for everyone, right?
absolutely.
I think that could just be the beautiful start to
Yeah.
a collaboration. But it's okay if, again, that person doesn't have the capacity to meet. Maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's a
Mhm.
text exchange, maybe it's an email. Meet them
And
where
maybe
they
it's
are.
just another time. Like
Maybe
it
it's
could
just
just
another
be
time.
like maybe it's just a bad time.
Yeah.
That's like you have to be there. There has to be an effort on your part if you're seeking a collaboration or a partnership, but you also have to be willing to hear the words no or be ghosted. Just
Yeah,
sometimes not
absolutely. Oh,
everybody
yeah.
has that capacity. And
Yes.
also, like a lot of people, especially now, are hiring out people to manage the spaces that you would be contacting them through. And so sometimes, like just because you got ghosted, it may just be a situation of maybe it was a social media manager that just missed the missed the
Mhm.
thing. And so you do have to be willing to hear no or ghosting and not be afraid to come back again. Um, and
Yeah,
one thing that
absolutely. Oh, and to your point, Angela, there was someone who reached out to me about, I guess it was an MLM, I'm not sure, and they wanted to know, if I was interested in getting more information about this company, in my head, I was like, no, and I didn't respond. And
Yeah.
a few days later, she DM'd again and said, listen, if it's not the right time, it's okay. I just want to hear a yes or no so that I can close the loop. And I
Oh,
was like,
I
well,
like
no,
that.
but thank you for closing the loop.
Yes. I love
You
how
know?
easy she made that for you. Like,
Yeah.
she made it easy for you to say yes if you wanted to. And then she made it easy for her to get closure in saying, look, like, is it yes or no? Like, it's okay if it's no. Like,
I
that's
said, well,
fine.
thank you for following up, but it's not at this time. So, I mean, great. We all had an understanding that we're not moving forward right now with
Yeah,
whatever it is that she was pitching to me. And we
exactly.
both left with closure.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So many times, like, I feel like you don't get that closure,
Mhm.
especially on the client side. A lot of times, like, I'm sure you have the same case where people will inquire and then you give them pricing or like whatever, and you're like, cricket. Like, okay, do I still need like, what are
Right.
we doing here? So yeah, I do appreciate that vendor to vendor or business owner to business owner, regardless of if it was MLM or whatever. Like, I appreciate that she just made it easy for you. And
Mhm.
that's something too, like, make it easy for people to say yes. A lot of, I mean, it's no secret. We talk about this all the time on social media about like our mental bandwidth and our ability, our capacity to like take things on. And if we can make it really easy for people to say yes, they're more likely to say yes. And so
Mhm.
if you are seeking that partnership and you are saying, hey, do you want to go to coffee? Instead of just saying like, hey, do you want to go to coffee? Be like, hey, do you want to go to coffee on date,
Yes.
time, location?
Yes. And
Because
giving
that's an
two
easy yes.
options as well,
Yes,
just in
exactly,
case.
exactly. And because it keeps that mental bandwidth on you, the person who's requesting it, instead of like on the other person. Because how many times have you been asked, like, oh, we should really hang out, or oh, we should really get
Mhm.
coffee, and then it's just like you never hear from the person again
Right.
until it's
Right.
time for like the next event or whatever. And so that's like the biggest, like, that is the biggest thing, I think, is just make it easy for people to say yes and keep the ball in their court. Make it easy to pass that ball back and forth, and people will do it. People want to collaborate. They understand like the value of it. It's just sometimes it's not always mutually, it's really got to be this balance. It can't just be one person take in and the other person giving, because that's not going to last.
Yeah, 1000%. I mean, you're going to get burnt out because you're going to feel like I'm, just giving so much of myself, giving so much of my business. I'm not seeing the return. I'm not even hearing a thank you.
Yeah,
A thank you goes a long way when you
yeah.
give your time or you give your resources to a partnership. We as professionals really have to be cognizant of that, just making sure that we
Mhm.
do follow up and show gratitude and show appreciation, especially if someone is not being paid for their
Exactly.
time and services, especially.
Yeah, and that especially the not being paid part goes, I found, was like a really prevalent when I was first starting my business. Now it's the partnerships are much different now, but
Mhm.
when you were building, like in the early days of business building and collaboration, when like, what were some of the things you had talked a little bit about this? Like, after you left somewhere, you were like, okay, like, was that worth it? Am I going to go again? Like, what were some of the things that like had you wanting to go again? And then if you're comfortable sharing, like, what were some things that were like, okay, I know I don't want to go back, or not that I don't want to go back, but it wouldn't be a good, wise decision for me to go back and spend my resources there.
Yeah, well, that's a really great question because I feel like I have answers for both. I've had some wonderful collaborations. I've had some not so great ones. The ones that didn't work so well, I feel, were broken promises. If
Mm.
they were kind of setting expectations of your logo is going to be placed here, your name is going to be in the program, you're going to have 5 minutes to talk about your business, you're going to have an opportunity to make an offer
Mhm.
to the audience, or just social media posts, shouting out your business as a sponsor or as a vendor. And when those
Mhm.
things didn't happen, that's kind of like a gut punch
Yeah.
because you are the one telling me that this is going to happen. I didn't even ask
Yeah.
about it, but you
You
gave
came
me
to
the list of
me.
promises.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like,
Um,
just follow through. Or if you can't meet that expectation, offer something else. We weren't able to do
yeah.
that, but we can give you this. We can give you a
Yeah.
free ticket or two free tickets because we couldn't do this other thing. It goes a long way in just acknowledging.
Yeah.
What has kept me going back are promises kept, right? I know just the
Mhm.
exact opposite, just making sure that you do what you say you're going to do,
Yeah, and
right?
I don't want to have to beg for what you already promised me. Like, I don't want to be
Mhm.
like, the event's in 2 days. You have, because I'm not going
Yeah,
to do that.
yeah,
I'm just going to go, this
absolutely.
probably is not a partnership I want to do again.
Right. But I think, I've kept going back to organizations who share values with me.
Mhm.
Anything involving, uplifting women and children, cancer. For some reason, I've been sort of tied into that over the last few
Mhm.
years. And of course, we all care about, helping people that have been affected by cancer. But I think specifically because I work with so many women, cancer and breast cancer, that's something that has come up for me a lot. And of course, with doing the permanent makeup, I see clients that are dealing with, different things with their health. And, I have a solution for that, at
Yeah.
least something that can help feel a little bit better. So I have seen a lot of, just a great relationship building in that space.
Yeah.
I would say also too, you know, understanding too that again, there's a mutual benefit. So, do we share the same type of client? When you think
Mhm.
about clientele, do we have some sort of avatar that maybe crosses over into both of our spaces? Do we have a similar follower count? Do we have a lot of mutual followers in both of our accounts? That
Mhm.
would really kind of react positively to seeing someone new in their space, but
Mhm.
also someone who's slightly familiar, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have to have that discernment as far
Yeah.
as what you are going to put your name behind. And if I can't be proud to post your organization or to post you as someone that I'm partnering with, it's just an automatic no. I don't want to do
Yeah.
something that feels off to me or feels off brand or doesn't feel right unless, again, we already have a relationship. So, for example, I was asked to record something for an event. It was education as a civil right, which
Mhm.
is not really in my purview. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't ever talk about that, and I believe in it, I
Yeah.
wholeheartedly, but it's a little off brand for me. But,
Mhm.
someone who I've known for years who's in the organization was like, Leah, will you do this? Yes, automatic yes.
Yeah.
Like, she's a friend of mine. Like, I got you. So
Mhm.
sometimes you do have to do things that might be slightly off brand because of, you want to maintain those relationships. But
Yeah.
again, I'm proud to post that because it's a great organization and they're doing great work, right?
Right. Yeah. Um, I feel like it's like, yeah, ditto.
Mhm.
Like ditto, yes. I can definitely feel the failed promises thing.
Mhm.
That can be very, very telling. And sometimes organizations, I feel like they have intent on like fulfilling their obligation or their commitment, but sometimes like it just they're not equipped necessarily to be able to fulfill it in a way that's like beneficial to us too, because obviously their priority is that organization or event or whatever. So it certainly is like this balance of like understanding what you're going to get and then like realizing what you did receive and if the difference
Mhm.
is worth that squeeze. Um, I definitely agree with finding organizations that you personally feel connected to in some kind of way because it just makes it a lot easier for you to talk about it and to get the buy-in. Because if I'm working with an organization, particularly like if it's a nonprofit organization, like my my goal is to also bring other people who want to be a part of this organization. I do a lot of posting and like promotion for like March or not March for Moms, Mighty Moms and Whole Heart Health because like food insecurity is something that matters a lot to me. And so with that, like with posting about that, and I don't even post about it very often, I might mention it once or twice, but there are so many other people who are like, hey, I have like some Easy Mac for you. Hey, I have like whatever. And that brings me a lot of joy. So while I'm not getting necessarily financial benefit from these partnerships, I'm getting like that. I'm getting the buy-in of my community to come together and make a difference. And that's everything that I'm trying to do. So I definitely agree with finding those organizations that you feel connected to. And then also acknowledging that sometimes you are doing things because it's support for somebody who is your person, who is just like somebody that you want to support or need to support, or you need to like, continue that relationship. Um, a couple things that have kind of come up in conversation that I just wanted to like pick your brain about is um content collaborations and giveaways on social media. So a lot of the times those will go hand in hand. Um, Tell me your opinion on those. Tell me how you feel about those because initial, so I did this a lot whenever I first started out business with the intention of like gaining some type of following. But outside of that, I don't necessarily think that that translated to dollars like in my pocket. And so I would love to hear your feedback on like how to approach those types of partnerships strategically. And yeah, I just want to hear your feedback because
Yeah, yeah,
I,
no,
I
that
get
that is a
I get
great
nervous telling people
multi
to do. Yeah, I
yeah,
get
that's a
nervous
great
telling people to do
multi-layered
giveaways.
question. Because I mean, how many times do you get reached out to about participating in a giveaway? A lot.
A lot.
um, and those are fairly easy for me to do because there's not much work involved. That's one thing I look at is how much work is this gonna put on me. But if you're just asking for me to give you a gift certificate or something like that, that's usually pretty easy to do. But I look at, who else is involved in this giveaway? If it's going to be, five or six of us, do we have alignment in some sort of way with clientele or business? And, how are we picking the winners? Because I was involved in one giveaway where there were four winners. And they said, okay, here's the people that we're going to announce. Do you all feel comfortable with this? And I looked at their pages. Some of the pages were private. Some of them had like 50 followers. And I'm thinking, why are we picking these people who aren't going to
Yeah,
promote the giveaway at
right,
all? Or
right.
so few people are going to see it. If they do post a picture, we want to get something back, from
Yeah,
this. So
right.
it's like, let's pick somebody else,
Yeah,
but,
yeah, yeah.
and then one thing that I've started to do, let's say it's a, bridal giveaway, something like that. I want to make sure that if it's a group of people that are involved in this, there's not someone else that does the same thing as me or does something similar because now we're almost like competing in the giveaway. That
Yep,
doesn't make sense,
right.
so just making sure that there's some sort of unique, offer that I can give from my business where it's, doesn't get convoluted or lost.
Right.
I've also started to do a voucher for a certain amount off versus just giving it away. So like, let's, for example, a makeup application is a $125 to $145, just depending on what you choose. Well, I'll say, okay, I'll offer a $75 off voucher for the giveaway. So that way that person is still spending a little bit of money with
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
I've just kind of had to wise up about that because I'm like, man, I'm giving away the shop.
Yep.
you
And you
know?
also like have to consider things like cancellations and reschedules. Like those are things that I know I dealt with in giveaways. People get this free photo session and they're like, oh, well, actually, I can't make it on the day that you published. And
Right.
so there has to be like you have to think about those kind of things too. Like I kind of made that shift too. Like we'll talk a little bit about model calls because I'm sure you've had to do some type of model calling in the past. But something that I had to start doing with photos as I was making, like I was calling for models, like I had to charge. Like it wasn't just
Mhm.
a free shoot. A model doesn't equal free. And
Right.
so I appreciate that you also like kind of use that voucher system. Have you started to do that like
Mhm.
for auctions and stuff like that too? Because I feel like I want to do that too. Because
Mhm.
I will give away like a free photo session. I'm doing it right now. Like I have this girl who's been trying to book with me for like 4 months and we just don't have, she wants a weekend. Well, I charge extra for that. So like you're gonna have to pay for that. And it's just like very convoluted. So I like the idea of a voucher. Like you do that for auctioning too.
So it just depends on what all I'm getting, right? If they're giving me prominent logo placement and all these, shout outs and, if they're really promoting me, I don't mind just giving it away. But if, I look at the event, doesn't look like the attendance was very high for last year. It doesn't necessarily, well, in that case, probably shouldn't be doing it at all. But,
Yeah.
if you really just want to support the
Yeah.
person, right, who came to you because, again, you have that relationship with them,
Mhm.
ask yourself, what am I getting out of this? Because if I'm
Yeah.
not really getting anything, then you probably want to get some money, right?
Yeah.
So, but if
Yeah.
they're saying, yeah, you're going to get tickets and we're going to do this, like you just, I would say base it on what is value to you, right? Because that looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
So yes, in giveaway cases, typically I will do, it's a percentage off or some sort of,
Right.
money off. Typically for an auction item, if I feel as though I'm getting an ROI, a good ROI here, I'll just go ahead and give them a makeup party
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just my time at the end of the day. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I like that idea, the voucher idea. Because I've just had I love doing the auction items. Like I'll give an auction item, no problem. Um, the struggle is just those terms and conditions, man. So it's like it just makes it so much harder to implement those. I find if there's like no money exchanged or whatever.
mhm.
And then there was something else that I was like, oh, I wanted to say that. Um, oh no, I can't think of what it was. Oh my gosh, it's right there. It's about the auction item. Oh, sometimes I've had this one organization, so 3 years in a row, and then after that, I was like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore because clearly this is something. But maybe it was two, I can't remember. Maybe it was the third one that I said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. But the same person bought the gift card from the auction 2 years in a row, but it was only like I asked them like, hey, like how much did this make? So I'll ask them like how much it made for the organization. And if I see that like it's one of the organizers of the organization that's taking this
Mhm.
gift card, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't like that. And it would be different if
Mhm.
it was someone who was spending money with me on in other ways. But if you're just coming to me for a gift certificate and then you're the one bidding on the gift certificate,
Right.
which to me it's like, okay, that's fine. Like the money is still going to the organization, which was the point. But if you're using this as a way to get a discount on my services, like I'm not on board with that. Like I would
Mhm.
rather them pay full price and then me make the donation. So
Yeah.
you definitely have to again be willing to say no and be willing to kind of be like, oh, it's not good for me this year or whatever, however
Yeah.
you want to approach
Yeah.
that.
And there's a very polite way that I was taught to, say no or not right now. Angela Poirier, she owns a big construction company, and she gets hit up all the time, just as we all
Yeah.
do about, giving. And she's like, I set a budget at the beginning of the year, and I stick to it. So once that budget runs out, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not donating anything else, whether it's money or time. So I will say if someone approaches me after the budget is depleted, I actually make those donating decisions in Q1. So around December, if you want to reach out to me and, I can put you on the list, put you in the mix for consideration and go from there, which I think is a great way to say no, right? Without being impolite about it. It's just
Yeah.
we have to set a boundary.
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
and whether
Bound
that's 2,000 or 20,000, whatever that looks like for your business, and just making sure that you are being very, very strategic about who you pick. I mean, I
Yep.
certainly want to prioritize 501(c)(3)s, right? Because I know that I can get a write-off for
Mhm.
that. I want to prioritize again the people who are already supporting me. If you've sat in my chair, if you have shared a post, if you have referred people to my business, you are going to be high on the priority list. I mean, when Angela asked me to do this call today, like automatic yes. She
Yep.
has supported my business in so many ways that people don't even see, including picking up paintbrushes and like helping me renovate my building. That's something that has meant so much to me. So like whatever it is, yes. If it doesn't align with my schedule, I'm trying to find a way.
I'm gonna try to find a
So
way. Yep. Yes, and that's what I love so much. So I have to tell like the story of how Leah and Angela came together. So I don't know. I feel like I told you this one time, Leah. Am I frozen or are you frozen? Oh, there you are. Okay. I think I told you this one
so
time, but
you
I can't
were
remember.
frozen for me, but you're good.
Okay. So I don't remember how I first saw your social media, but I just remember thinking like, man, I just want to know this girl. Like she looks so like so sweet and like I love the way that you just carried yourself and the way that you spoke. And I was just like, I really just like admired you, you know? And there was this one time where so I like followed you on Instagram and then just organically I was just like, oh, this is really cute. I just started like engaging a little bit and not in like a creepy way, but just as like a this girl's doing really cool stuff kind of thing. And
Yeah.
it became the time where I could have chosen to do my own makeup, but I was like, this is the moment. This is the moment. And so I booked your services. I came and I sat in your chair, and then we just hit it off from there. And that is a really, really good strategy is if you don't have a connection with somebody that you want to, go spend money with them. Go buy
Mhm.
something from them. Go promote their services. See what can you give to them, whether it costs you money or it don't, like it doesn't matter. But giving will always return something. Like
Absolutely.
I feel like whatever you put out there, you're gonna get back tenfold. And that's been true for me so far. So
Yeah, absolutely. And also, Angela, I feel like as a business owner who is asking for people to spend money with you, you should be giving. You should be giving back to the community that you're asking the support from because again, like you said, it always comes back. It may not necessarily come back in the specific form that you would like, but
right.
uh it gets returned. So I love the fact that I can make an impact on my city
Mhm.
from where I sit, and I don't have a huge donation budget. I don't. I'm a small business owner,
Yeah.
and you gotta watch where those dollars go very, very closely, especially in this economy. But I do feel obligated to say, you know what? I'm asking Baton Rouge to, come spend their hard-earned dollars with me on makeup for crying out loud.
Yeah.
That's like you said, it's not a necessity. That's a luxury
Yeah.
service.
Yep. And the fact that people are not just prioritizing it, but they're prioritizing it with you, because they
Mhm.
could go somewhere cheaper and they're choosing not to. And so that's something I like that you kind of alluded to, you know, being connected to the organizations and the community that your clients are also a part of. People want to, and they also want to know how they can get involved. So like your clients are watching you, Leah, and going, okay, well, she donates to Fort Cancer, or I can't, I think you did Fort Cancer, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
So that just gives them
in terms of honorees, I've done Flower Fest and I've done the Club Blue, but I do attend
that's
Fort
the one I
Cancer
was thinking of.
pretty much every year and buy a
Yeah.
ticket and I'm try to be visible with that organization because I do believe in what they do and there's delicious
Yeah.
food. So I mean, can't go wrong with
Eat
that.
it.
But speaking of Fort Cancer, here's a good example of a great collaboration. Um, I'm friends with Jordan from Where to Go 225. And I said, hey, I am really wanting to promote my Mardi Gras services. hair and makeup is something that, is obviously huge during carnival season. And, I just want to put it out there. Like I'm open for booking. And I said, I don't know how much you charge for that. Like, we can certainly talk numbers. Like, if you need payment, by all means, there is a small budget. And she's like, well, shoot, I'm trying to promote Fort Cancer right now. Why don't I just sit in your chair, do the hair and makeup, and I could say, hey, Fort Cancer's coming up, get your glam, for whatever special occasion. So it was mutually beneficial because
Yeah.
she's president of that organization right now. So she did her reel. It got, I don't know how many views, several thousand, which was great. I got some new followers, so some activity on my feed that I didn't necessarily have before. Hopefully she got the same, but it just makes sense. She's a local female business owner,
Yep.
you know, promoting local people and local things. And, you know, I do some online business, not very much. The majority of my business is done, with these two hands
In person.
in
Yeah.
my studio. So I need for local people to see that I
Hmm.
exist,
Hmm.
So I thought that was a really great collab that, just again, didn't cost me anything except for some
Yeah.
time, but I really got a good ROI from it.
In some ways, that's because of it being Jordan, and she's what we would call an influencer, right? Like she
I don't
would
think
call
she
herself,
says that,
I
but I mean, I think she is.
Okay. So in a way, it's almost like you did a service swap too, right? Because she typically would do influencer marketing or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it's actually called. But in a way, you kind of got a service swap too. Like there was a partnership because of Fort Cancer, but then there was this service swap side of it. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I know you do Partners One, right? Is it Partners One?
Yes,
Okay, I
yeah,
know
I
you do
love it.
Partners One, and that is like more of a formal kind of service swap thing. But I want to talk more like small service swaps. Is that something that you found value from? Is that something you try to stay away from? Who are the people that you like doing that with? Who are like, tell me like your outlook kind of on service swaps.
Yeah, well, I am a huge fan of trading. I absolutely love it. Now, there are upsides and downsides, right, to trading because um, you have to be very organized if it's not on a program like Partners
Yeah.
One, where all of the analytics and all of the data and all of the, everything's done for you. And you can just open up an app and see this is how much credit I have. You have to be really organized because services are not always one to one, right? In terms of
Right.
cost and in terms of time. So you
Right.
may have a little bit left over on your credit. So then
Yeah.
now what do you do? You have to keep up with that. Then you have to reapply it. Then
Yeah.
you may have to like get more credit. And,
Yeah.
you kind of end up going back and forth with this like never ending floating credit, um, which, you kind of want to keep up with that if you want it to be fair. Always
Right.
also say make sure that you actually really want to trade. Like it is also okay to say no if someone comes to you and they're offering a service that really just doesn't
That you don't use.
appeal.
Yeah. It
Yeah, if
really
you
should
just
be things that you're already purchasing or that you
exactly,
really, really, really want. Um,
exactly.
I I feel you on the organization part. We
Hmm.
do service swaps pretty, I would say fairly frequently, you and
Yeah.
I. And we're every time we're like, wait, hold on. What's our who owes what? Like, what are we doing? But I feel comfortable. There's that comfort, right? Like, I know that you're not going to screw me, and I
Yeah.
know that I'm not going to screw you. So there is like that comfort right there. But I
Hmm.
think going with Partners One, if you're gonna do business, if you're gonna do service swap business, particularly with strangers, I think it's probably the smarter decision.
Well,
Because to your point, if there's not that history there, it's like at what point can I still cash this in, right?
hmm,
Like, am I gonna
hmm,
come in 2 years later and be like, hey Leah, don't forget you have to do my
yeah.
makeup,
Yeah. Yeah. The
you
beauty of
know?
partners is you don't have to trade back with a person who traded with you. So, Angela, if she were on partners, could come and, get her brows done and then, pay me on partners,
Mhm.
and then I could take that credit and go out to French Market Bistro or go get, my tires replaced, or, whatever it is with that credit. And then it just keeps going. I mean, there's almost a
Right.
thousand businesses from what I understand that are involved in it.
Yeah.
So, if I come across another business owner that already loves trading, I'm like, this is something you might need to look at, because it just takes all of the guesswork and the pressure off of you. And if there are any issues, there's a person to go to,
Right. Right.
whereas otherwise you'd be like handling it on your own, and it can get kind of awkward, right? If you're like, yeah,
Do
you
you,
owe me, but then they're saying they don't,
right.
like
Right.
that can get really kind of sticky.
Yeah, for sure. Um, have you found that when you do business with somebody on partners, does that ever like segue into a more personal partnership, or is it usually just like exchange of services kind of thing?
Yeah, I think for what I do, it always ends up being personal, because I'm
Mhm.
2 inches from that person's face. We're having dialogue, we're having conversation while you're in the
Mhm.
chair. We've got music going, there's an ambiance, it just creates a relaxing environment for you to get to know someone. Now,
Mhm.
if I'm going to go get a sign made, I may never meet the owner.
Fair
I
enough.
might
Yeah.
be talking to one of their employees who isn't necessarily interested in growing a relationship with me because they don't own the business.
Right.
But 9 times out of 10, you're going to be serviced by me unless, there's just a special
Yeah.
circumstance. So I do feel it gives us an opportunity to get to know one another, to really understand, like, what are your business goals? Like,
Right.
what can I do to support your business, since now you're supporting me, and
Mhm.
that can be as simple as a post.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll tag partners. If I have someone in my chair
Oh
who's
yeah.
a trader, I'll tag partners on there, and they'll share it to their
Mhm.
feed. So, it ends up going beyond just the two people that are trading together. And other people see that and they go, oh, I didn't even know they had a makeup artist on partners, stuff like
Right.
that. So,
Yeah.
and they also will end up referring people to you who are paying cash. So not everybody
Right.
in my network and in their network is on partners. They have cousins and aunts and family members and friends who, would be interested in these same services. And if you're giving a good review, they're going to want to
Right.
come and pay. So
Yeah.
it does end up having that kind of return as well.
We talked a little about model calls. So if you are looking for someone to demonstrate your services or help you create um, examples or samples,
Mhm.
what type of advice do you have for people who are looking for models? One thing that if I had to add something, it would be to be very specific in what you're looking for and know when, where, what time, what you want them to wear, what you need them to look like all the specifics. Because people who are interested and they don't meet the criteria, they're still going to inquire. And but it will help to identify the people who do meet the criteria. A lot of people will
Mhm.
weed themselves out. Some people will still apply, but it gives you the opportunity to make the exception if you want to, but it'll still help to narrow the call. So, do you have anything like that you would do differently or anything
Well,
to add?
I've only done one model call in my entire career, and I will have to say that it was successful. But I do wholeheartedly agree with you, Angela. One thing that I love about you is you are always clear. Like, nobody can say that they didn't know, because you're going to give a 10-point
I mean,
checklist,
people say that
and
all the time.
like, you're going to make sure they understand the expectations. So, like, for example, the model call that I did was for brow model. So I wanted to promote, again, permanent makeup. And I said, hey, you have to be, under 35. You have to be in good health, several things that I explained, comfortable in front of the camera, because, I want to leverage this model call. I want to have as
Mhm.
much time as I need to get the shots that I want, because I'm not the
Mhm.
best photographer. I'm nowhere near Angela Hoppe, so I want to be able to take my time, get the video, get you like giving a review, on camera about your experience. So, I want to make sure that they're comfortable in front of the camera. I mean, I even had a girl show up and she had a baseball cap on, like almost down to here. And I said, "Oh, okay, well, let's go ahead and take that off for your pictures." She was like, "Well, I'm not comfortable with pictures." And she was someone who came in for the model call. And I was like, "Well, then you're going to have to pay for
Yeah.
a regular appointment." That
Yeah.
cap came
The
off so
exchange
fast.
was in exchange for the testimony and pictures and all the things.
Yes.
I did like how you said, like, you specifically say comfortable in front of the camera, not just like
Mhm.
taking a picture, but you're going to give me a testimony, like
Yeah.
it's a testimony too. So I do
Yeah.
like pointing that out specifically because you're right. Like it's not always, we think it's like I'm intuitive and I'm like, oh, that must mean that if I'm going to be a model, I must be on camera, right? But not everybody like thinks like that.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
and
that's
some
really
people I
good.
noticed just didn't read the fine print, but I mean, we worked it out. But I also wanted to make sure that they were giving me a Google review and a Facebook review. So those were two additional requirements,
Mhm.
which I mean helped me tremendously as a growing business
Yeah.
to have, that social proof out there. So, there were a couple of people that I had to follow up with. Hey, I'm seeing your Google review. Yeah, but then they
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
right on. So, you
Yeah.
may have to follow up a little bit.
Yes.
But I do agree asking for some sort of payment. I mean, Browse in its totality, it's a $700 service. Now I was charging 150 for the models, just so it cover my time, cover whatever supplies that I was using, like we call it a tray fee.
Mhm.
So, again, we also understand that we need this person to show up. So
Yeah.
if they spend $150, they're probably going to show up for their
Right.
appointment. If you
Right.
say you don't have to pay me anything, then that leaves the door wide open for a no-show. So we
Yeah.
just, we're busy. Our time is really valuable. We want to make sure that
Yeah.
people are holding up their end of the bargain. But I got great footage from
Yeah.
that model call. I think I had 10 models all together, and was able to mix and match the content in different ways, from the still photos, the videos, to all sorts of things. And I saw a tremendous shift in my business just from that one model call. That's why I didn't have to do another one, because that one was such
Yep.
a great
Yep.
success.
Yeah.
And a lot of those models have come back and paid full price for their touch-ups. So that
Right.
was a great thing too. They did come back
Yep.
and ended up spending more money with me.
Right.
So
That's
it's a
awesome.
win-win.
Would you say, so we're service-based businesses, people who are doing more products, is there a way, how would you like just give me your ideas? How would you manage a model call of sorts if you were intending on doing it for a product? So in my head, what I would do is I would do the call and I would do it on a specific day and time and I would get local people to come out and use my products and I would be the one that I'm still getting like video, photo footage. I'm still getting testimonies. I want to hear, like, I want my goal for that model call for the product would be like content. Is that kind of how
Hmm.
you would view that too? Or do you
Yeah.
have like another idea?
Yeah, no, I think that's great to like make it a content day. That way it makes it easy to say yes, right? We talked about that earlier, because if people have to, like, if they have to be the one getting the content, like a lot of people are scared by that.
Yeah.
Unless they're a professional, influencer, or have some sort of, comfort level with doing that. I mean, that could weed them out automatically. So, just having them show up, play with the product, test it, try it, give their honest thoughts, and you're getting that quality content can be really great. Of course, in the beauty industry, we see a lot of like PR boxes where you just send your product directly to the person and hope for the best. That's a little
Yeah.
bit more dangerous, because
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these influencers are really honest, and they're going to say they
Yeah.
didn't like that shade of lipstick.
Yeah.
And, they may not post at all. If you
Right.
haven't set any expectation of, we expect you in exchange for this PR box to give us 3 stories and a reel, they may not say anything. So,
Right.
it just kind of depends on what your marketing strategy is. But, for me, like, I always want to have a return on that investment. So
Totally.
you
Totally.
got to do.
Especially at this point. Yeah. Especially at this point, you're kind of like past the dipping the toes in and seeing
Hmm.
what feels warm, you're like, okay, I know that one's warm. I'm going
Hmm.
there. Or I know that one's hot. I'm going there. Yeah, because at some point you have to start getting strategic with those resources because your time is just so limited at some point.
Right.
Um, okay, so we have 4 minutes left. I do want to give the people who are on a chance to, if you have a question, feel free to ask it. If not, me and Leah will just keep chatting for 4 more minutes. I see Paige is thinking.
I'm trying to come up with something. That was a lot of information all at once.
Well, I mean, I feel like Paige is also like a master collaborator too. I mean, I'd love to hear like her thoughts as a professional as well, like some
Yeah,
of her best tips, because I feel like I mean, that's what you do, you know,
yeah.
you collaborate for a living.
Especially in the social media space. Like, what are you seeing as far as like the official collaboration button? Like that's a thing now. So yeah.
I tell everybody to do that. If you can collab, collab. There's no reason not to. It helps both businesses, so you may as well hit that collab button.
Hmm.
How do you
Okay, let
feel
me ask
about
you
how it?
this.
Okay, you go.
Because okay, like sometimes I have heart palpitations because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't like that cover image that they chose, or like whatever it is, like
Exactly what
it's
I was
just,
gonna
oh
say.
my God, it's a blurry image, or like that's not what I would have said. I mean, how do you feel about that? Or should we just get over it?
If you like absolutely hate the content itself and that's not a reflection of your business, don't accept it. But if it's just that cover photo holding you back, accept it. Leave it on
Okay.
your account
Okay.
for a week until likes start dying down.
Mhm.
You can always either remove it. Now it will tell them that you've
Mhm.
removed the post, but there's no hard feelings. If it doesn't match your grid, it doesn't match your grid. Um, Either remove it from your whole account, or sometimes Instagram's pretty glitchy. Everybody has different features on their accounts. Some of my clients I can remove from their main grid, and you can
See, I
only
had that the
do
other day. Yeah.
some people
Mhm.
have it and some people don't. So it's just
Mhm.
got to see if you got it.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I want to accept everyone, I really do. But sometimes I'm
I do
like,
too.
I just would have done this
Sometimes it's like
differently,
four people in a row, or I'm like, oh, I can't have that many on my thing. Or to your point, like sometimes because all my stuff is because it's photography. Like I took the picture that's the cover photo, and I'm like, but you didn't use the right, you just screenshotted it. Like it's all blurry. I don't want to put it on there. I don't want to put it on there. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that I can, in fact, accept those collaborations.
Yeah, but I love how moving it off the main grid so that way you maintain on the back end, right? And it's not
Yeah,
saying they removed themselves from the collaboration, which is kind of awkward, right?
yeah, it is.
Um, yeah. So great advice. Thank you, Paige.
Of course.
Yeah, thanks for chiming in. Well, do you have anything left that you want to share, Leah, or anything that you feel like we missed? I feel like it was a lot of random stuff, but I'm about it. I like it.
I mean, I definitely feel like it was all on topic, right? I mean, and it's a big kind of topic, like collaboration, partnership. There's several different kind of layers to that, and I think that you did a great job with covering everything very comprehensively. And also adding in your expertise. And I just appreciate you having me on today as an expert in this area, because I guess, it's something that I just do all the time now. And it's great to have an opportunity for me to reflect on the why. Why do I find this to be useful? And, what to look out for, what to do, what not to do, and be able to maybe help the next person who might be struggling a little bit with how to get started or how to accept, those partnerships, or just even how to say no politely. I
Yeah.
think if you walked away from one or walked away with this call with one tidbit or one nugget that you can use in your business moving forward, then I think that, you joined a great call.
And
So
if you
thank you,
didn't, don't
Angela.
tell me. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much for coming on, Leah. I can always count on you. And I'm super excited about this week. We have an event that we'll be attending together. So actually, I think all of us on the call will be attending. Oh, there she is.
Oh,
So
great.
Megan gives me the thumbs up.
Yeah,
She
girl,
must
I'm
be,
like half naked with the
yeah.
baby and
I
diaper
was like,
changing and everything.
she's
So,
probably breastfeeding over there.
yeah.
Well,
I
good
have
deal. Well, thank y'all. Oh, yeah, what you
I
got?
have one little question. Like, how do you, I don't know if it just depends on what you're rolling out, but how do you prefer to roll out like new things? Do you like to do model call, cut it in the background? Do you like to do a discount for the first like 5 people that join? How do you find that kind of works better for
Um,
For
you?
me, it's gonna go ahead, Leah.
oh, I was gonna say like that's a big question because there's so many different
Yeah.
ways you can do it. And I
Yeah,
think it
Yeah.
depends on what you're rolling out,
yeah.
Hmm.
because there's just no one way to answer that. But for me, I lean super heavily on email and text marketing. I
Hmm.
find that that is one of the most effective ways for me to relay information to my clientele because I have 1,000 clients on my list. And
Okay.
so I know that they've already done business with me. If I say, hey, I have a new shiny bright object here because they're already interested in services with Faces by Leah, they're more likely to respond to that.
Hmm.
I'm just putting it out there on social media as like a, a giveaway, a new service, whatever. I mean, there is a captive audience there, but they may not have done business with me already. So might just be like, oh, that's cute, and they move on.
Yeah.
So you have to find what works for you. And for me, email, if it's maybe involves a longer conversation and there's steps, pricing, different things like that, text message, and maybe it's a little bit more short, punchy, urgent, cutesy, that sort of thing. So that's what works for me.
You do a really good job of your digital marketing, like outside of I mean, you do great at social media too, but like outside of social media, utilizing other platforms for your marketing, you do a really good job of that.
Thank
But
you.
I would say the same thing, Megan. I mean, I'm with Leah here. It just depends on what you're rolling out and how your audience responds. So the way that my audience receives information best may not be the same that yours does. And so do like kind of like a drift approach, do a little bit of each, see what works. The big part of business owning, I find, is like evaluating, reflecting, and then pivoting. Like you have to be willing to do that eval part and you have to be willing to pivot if it's not working. So,
Yeah.
and give it an honest amount of time too, right? We don't want to just try it once and be like, well, it didn't work. Got to do the next
Right.
thing.
Right.
But be willing to pivot when you know, okay, I've looked at everything, I've shifted it a little bit, and it's still not working. Now it's time to pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to your point, Angela, I think that you've done a great job with asking your audience like straight up, what do you guys want to see? Like,
Mhm.
how do you like to communicate? What topics are you interested in so that you can put them in like buckets? I assume that's what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing on the back end, but I assume you're trying to figure out like who likes their information a certain way, so that you can really meet them where they are. But I think that that's really smart too. Just asking your people like, hey, what, like if I, send you a text, like, will that work best for you? If I
Yeah.
tag you in social media when I have like a flyer promoting something, is that going to work best for you? Like give them some options and let them tell you how they want the information.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, you use like a hybrid approach. You're not just going to necessarily like launch a new product just on one platform. You're going to have like some type of, because you want to touch everybody. And also when somebody sees something once, you're not going to sell them on that one contact. And so if we can just drip it in a lot of different areas, then that kind of gives them the opportunity to even just see it more than once.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for everybody for signing on and then Leah for being my guest of honor. I
Yes,
appreciate you.
I am
If
honored.
y'all if y'all have any recommendations on what y'all want to see for the next topic, my goal is to do these quarterly and really I'm just taking topics that people are talking to me about. So collaboration has been a big kind of part of what I've been putting out there. And so people have questions around it. So I expect that the next one might be around whatever I put out there next. But if y'all have anything just off the top, feel free to, shoot me a text or email or social media, anything, and I'll do my best to make sure it happens.
Thank
All
you so
right. Well,
much.
you're so welcome. Y'all have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.